So 3 years ago, Sony released their 28mm f2 lens for the A7 lineup. To this day, it's still one of their most popular prime lenses, and today we're going to see why that is. So I'm going to talk about the design of the Sony 28mm f2. So first off, at the back, it's got a metal mount and it's combined with an aluminium construction, making it quite durable, but because it is aluminium, it's quite prone to scratches, so make sure to keep it well protected. Secondly, the focus ring on it is focused by wire, but it's quite smooth, and for people who want to use it for video, it's quite adequate to do so. One of the best things about the lenses is how compact it is and how light it is, weighing at only 200 grams, making it a breeze to travel with, and because of its size, it is quite discreet to use anywhere and everywhere. And lastly, one of the coolest features about the 28 f2 is that Sony have created two converters for the lens, which means that you can create a 16mm fisheye or a 21mm ultra wide lens by just sticking a little converter in front that stops the lens down from f2 to f2.8, which is quite neat. So now I'm just going to run over the key features of the Sony 28mm f2. So first off, it's got an aperture range of f2 to 22, combined with a 9 rounded blade aperture diaphragm for nice pleasing bokeh. Secondly, it's got 2 ultra-low dispersion elements with chromatic aberrations and color fringing, and 3 spherical elements with monochromatic aberrations, as well as distortions. So one thing I've noticed about how this lens focuses is what it will do is it will tend to defocus first before it focuses. So what that means is when you press the button halfway down for it to initiate autofocus, what happens is the image goes slightly out of focus the whole frame, and then it will then work with the linear autofocus system and then focus, and then it will be in tack sharp focus afterwards. So what that means is it's going to hunt just a little bit prior, and that's with any shot that you do in the AFS mode when using it in camera. So if you're going to be shooting fast moving subjects or doing burst shots, it's probably better not to use the AFS mode and maybe switch to AFC or use it on a manual focus mode. Don't get me wrong, the autofocus on the 28mm f2 is really quick and it's quite precise on getting the subject that you want. Just note that you will have that slight bit of delay prior to shooting. So now I'm just going to quickly talk about the performance of the 28mm f2. So as I mentioned earlier, in AFS it does tend to defocus then focus. In AFC mode, it doesn't quite do that at all. So when you're focusing AFC, it's quite quick. However, it's not as precise as AFS. So if you're going to be focusing on a single subject, make sure to leave your camera in AFS, as the lens benefits more out of that. And if you're going to be filming kind of like panning shots or subjects that go from left to right or quick moving subjects, then definitely use AFC, as the lens will benefit mostly from that. Secondly, in terms of flaring, I can't really test it too much today as we're clouded over. However, Josh, our videographer, actually owns one and says that in harsh sunlight it doesn't perform too well, but in days where there's a bit of cloud and a bit of sun, works pretty decently. So don't point it directly at the sun if you want to get the most out of the lens during the day. Lastly, with the lens, you can focus as close as 29 centimeters, which is absolutely brilliant. It opens you up to a larger variety of photography, so you can do some portraiture and get up close to a lot of things and utilize the lens fast aperture performance, which is pretty good. Today's sample images were shot using the Sony a7R Mark III and the Sony 28mm f2. Let's start with sharpness. The lens is pretty soft when shot wide at f2, but sees improvement when you stop down to f2.8. With chromatic aberrations and fringing, there is a tiny bit which can be easily fixed with a picture profile in editing software, and the lens does pretty well against distortions and does have a small shade of vignetting when shot wide open. Bokeh looks pretty nice considering the wide nature aspect of the lens, and in conclusion, although the lens isn't the best at f2, stopping down to f even 2.2 or 2.8 enhances the quality of the images And for the price, it really punches above its weight. So my final thoughts on the Sony 28mm f2. So the lens is made at an economic standpoint, which means that you do lose out on those coatings and other elements that helps the lens fight against chromatic aberrations, color fringing, all that jazz, which in comparison to the Zeiss 55mm f2, for example, does have, and we have noticed that there is a difference in lens performance with and without those coatings. In hindsight though, the lens is priced at around 600 to 700 Australian, and for a wide angle prime lens, this is super affordable. On top of that, the optical performance of it is actually quite impressive, especially after stopping down the lens. Compared to any other wide angle lens that costs around this price point, you won't really get the image quality that you do in comparison to the one that you get out of the 28mm f2. We recommend this lens for people who are looking for a wide angle lens with a fast aperture value, who are on a budget and don't really want to spend $3,000 on a 16 to 35mm f2.8. The lens is quite compact and it's really good for anyone who's looking to explore the wide angle part of photography, or even look for a lens to play around with low aperture values that gives you optimal flexibility with its wide angle focal length as well as its close focusing distance. On top of that, if you're looking for a discreet, lightweight travel lens, or even a lens to go every day for street photography, then really the 28 f2 is a really good option. On top of that, you can get a wide angle and a fisheye converter, which gives you ultimately 3 lenses in one for approximately 1,000 Australian, which really isn't too bad at all. If you have any questions on the lens, make sure to pop them in the comments below. Make sure to follow us on our Facebook, Instagram, and our blog so you don't miss out on our latest events and full written reviews on everything that goes on to this channel. And lastly, as always, if you enjoy our video, hit the like button and the subscribe button so you don't miss out on our next update, as we upload videos every Tuesday and Thursday.